Bullies picked on the new black girl. Big mistake. A minute later, they were begging. The slap of sneakers on concrete echoed down the sidewalk as Autumn Carter stepped off the bus and into her first morning at Maplewood High. Her hoodie was pulled halfway over her braided hair, earbuds tucked deep in her ears, eyes focused straight ahead. She didn't need the welcome party, but one was waiting for her anyway. Brad Covington stood with his arms crossed near the bike racks, flanked by two of his usual sidekicks, Ethan and Derek. Brad had the smirk of someone who'd never been told no in his life. He spotted Autumn the moment she stepped onto school grounds and elbowed Ethan. "There she is," he muttered. "The new girl from Detroit. Heard she had to switch schools after a fight. Wonder if she brought her little gang with her." Ethan snorted. "She's tiny. Look at her. She probably cried her way here." They moved forward in a pack. Autumn saw them coming from the corner of her eye, but kept walking. Her mother had warned her to keep her head down. "Let this place be a clean start, baby," Denise had said last night as she helped unpack boxes. "No more fighting. You're not there anymore." But clean slates were hard to keep when boys like Brad looked at you like you didn't belong. "Yo," Brad called out. "You deaf or just rude?" Autumn slowly pulled out one earbud, her face unreadable. "Excuse me?" "I said," Brad took a step closer. "When someone speaks to you, it's polite to answer, or maybe they don't teach that wherever you came from." "Detroit," she said plainly. "And yeah, we teach respect, especially when someone's 3 inches from getting their face cracked on the pavement." Derek let out a laugh. "Yo, she's got a mouth." Brad's eyes narrowed. "You threatening me?" Autumn didn't flinch. "Just giving you the same courtesy you gave me." That was the moment everything snapped. Brad lunged, going for her shoulder. It was meant to intimidate, not hurt. He wasn't dumb enough to hit a girl on school grounds, not yet, but he didn't get the chance. In a blink, Autumn grabbed his wrist, twisted, and sent him spinning off balance. He stumbled back into Ethan, who cursed and shoved forward. Derek tried to swing wide from the side. Autumn ducked, hooked her leg behind his knee, and dropped him with a smooth sweep. Ethan lunged, fists raised, only to catch a controlled palm to the chest that sent him reeling back into the bike rack. Brad got up, eyes blazing. "You think you're some kind of ninja freak?" Autumn stepped back into a calm stance. "No, I just don't like bullies." Phones were already out. The crowd that had gathered, students heading into school, a few lingering by the front steps, erupted in shocked murmurs. Some were cheering, a few were filming. And in the background, the vice principal's voice crackled over the intercom, announcing first period like nothing had happened. Autumn exhaled and picked up her backpack. She didn't say another word, just walked past the crowd like nothing happened. But inside, her heart was pounding. That wasn't the plan. 2 hours later, Autumn sat outside Principal Anderson's office, arms folded, face neutral. She could hear the low murmurs from inside, probably Brad's parents and someone from the district. Her mother hadn't arrived yet. The secretary, a silver-haired woman named Ms. Lyle, gave her a sympathetic glance. "You doing okay, hon?" Autumn nodded, but her jaw was tight. The door finally opened. Principal Anderson, tall, mid-50s, with a shaved head and deep lines around his eyes, gestured for her to enter. She walked in and sat. Her mother, Denise, had just arrived and looked rattled. "Autumn," she hissed, "what did we say about this?" "It wasn't my fault," Autumn said calmly. Mr. Anderson raised a hand. "Let's get the facts first." Brad's father, a broad-chested man in a tailored suit, stood near the window. His expression was pure contempt. "That girl assaulted my son and 2 other boys in broad daylight," he snapped. "They could have been seriously injured." Mr. Anderson turned toward Autumn. "Tell me what happened. From the beginning." She did, without exaggeration, without heat. Just the facts. When she finished, Mr. Anderson rubbed his temple. "We've reviewed the footage from student phones. It aligns with your version of events. You acted in self-defense." Mr. Covington sputtered. "Self-defense? She took down 3 boys like she's trained for combat." Autumn met his eyes. "Because I am." The room fell quiet. "I used to compete in youth MMA circuits." She added, "But I stopped after some things happened. I didn't want to be that girl anymore. I just wanted to blend in." "But you didn't run," Denise said softly. Autumn's eyes didn't leave Mr. Covington's. "Not this time." Principal Anderson leaned back in his chair. "There will be no punishment. However, I will be requesting a review of our student code of conduct regarding harassment. And, Mr. Covington, I suggest you speak to your son about respect." Brad's father stood abruptly. "This isn't over." "No," Anderson agreed, "but it should be." When he left, slamming the door behind him, Denise looked at her daughter and sighed. "I told you not to draw attention." "I know, Mama," Autumn replied, "but what was I supposed to do? Let him grab me?" Denise shook her head, but not in disappointment. There was pride hidden beneath the worry. "You always had fire," she said. "Guess I should have known it'd follow us here." Later that afternoon, as Autumn walked to her locker, something unexpected happened. A girl approached her. Short, Latina, maybe a sophomore. "Hey, I'm Riley. That thing you did, that was badass." Autumn blinked. "Thanks?" "Seriously. Some of us have been dealing with Brad and his crew for months. No one ever stood up to them like that. You made them look stupid. It was beautiful." More students started approaching. Some offered high fives. Others whispered, "You good?" Or "That was amazing." One girl, tiny, with bruises barely hidden under her sleeve, asked quietly, "Could you maybe teach me how to do that? You know, defend myself." Autumn hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah," she said. "Yeah, I could." In her heart, she knew this was the beginning of something much bigger than she planned. And maybe, just maybe, her fighting days weren't behind her after all. Not if it meant protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Not if it meant making sure no one had to walk through those school gates in fear ever again. It had only been 3 days since the incident at the bike racks, but Autumn Carter already felt the shift. Not just the way people looked at her in the hallways, wide-eyed, whispering, or the subtle nods from kids she didn't even know. It was deeper than that. It was the way some students walked straighter now, like her presence gave them permission to hold their heads a little higher. Still, not everyone was cheering her on. As she made her way to the cafeteria, she could feel the eyes of the administration on her. Mr. Reed, the assistant principal, seemed to hover near her classes more than necessary. Even some teachers had started giving her that look, the one that said, "We're watching you," as if her calmness was a performance and not who she truly was. She slid into a seat at the edge of the cafeteria, away from the crowd. Jessica Morales, the girl who'd approached her the day before, soon plopped down beside her with a tray of pizza and fries. "You know people are calling you the ghost now?" Jessica grinned, biting into a fry. "Like, because you just appeared out of nowhere and made 3 dudes disappear in a minute." Autumn rolled her eyes, though a smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "That's ridiculous." "It's awesome, is what it is. And get this, Brad's not back yet. Word is, his dad's threatening to sue the school unless they expel you." Autumn's smile disappeared. "Of course he is." Jessica leaned in. "Don't let that shake you. Everybody knows what happened. You didn't start it." "Doesn't always matter," Autumn said quietly. Before Jessica could respond, a voice rang out from across the cafeteria, loud, sharp. "Hey, Karate Kid, you taking students yet?" All heads turned. It was Shane Hollister, a varsity linebacker with a mean streak and a mouth to match. He stood with his arms folded near the lunch line, grinning like he was holding court. "Because my little sister could use some help," he went on, loud enough for the room to hear. "She's 6. Probably would have done a cleaner job than what you pulled." Laughter broke out at a few tables. Jessica stiffened. Autumn didn't move. Then she stood, walked slowly over to Shane's table, and looked him dead in the eye. "You think this is a joke?" Shane shrugged. "I think you got lucky. Brad wasn't ready. Maybe next time." "I don't care about Brad," Autumn interrupted, her voice low but steady. "But I'm telling you now, if you ever come at me sideways again, with jokes or threats or whatever that was, I won't be as polite next time." The table fell silent. Shane opened his mouth, then thought better of it. Autumn turned and walked back to her seat. Jessica let out a breath. "Okay," she whispered. "That was maybe even cooler than the biker rack thing." Autumn sat down, but her stomach was tight. She could feel it building. The backlash. It was only a matter of time before someone tried something worse, and she was right. That evening, as she walked home down an old residential street lined with bare trees and flickering street lamps, a black SUV slowly pulled up alongside her. She stopped. The tinted window rolled down. It was Brad's father. "Miss Carter," he said coolly. "Care to step in and talk?" Autumn's jaw clenched. "No, thank you." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're making quite the name for yourself. I hope you understand the position you've put this school and my family in. I defended myself. If your son wants a different outcome next time, maybe he should start by not attacking girls at 8 a.m. He chuckled bitterly. "You're bold, but bold doesn't mean untouchable. Not in this town." He drove off. Autumn didn't breathe for several seconds. Her hands were shaking, but her spine stayed straight. She'd been threatened before. Back in Detroit after her last tournament, there had been whispers. A girl that good, that fast, couldn't possibly be clean, couldn't possibly be normal. Her mother had pulled her from competition after a fight turned into a brawl outside the ring. But this was different. This wasn't just about fists. It was about power, about who got to be believed and who was expected to stay quiet. When she got home, her mom was waiting by the door. "Principal called me," Denise said. "Told me the Covingtons are pushing hard. Said you escalated something today in the cafeteria." "He tried to humiliate me. I didn't touch him." Denise pressed her lips together. "They don't care about the truth, Autumn. They care about optics, reputation." Autumn looked at her mom, eyes shining. "So what do I do? Stay quiet? Let them bury me?" "No," Denise said softly. "You stay smart." The next day, Autumn sat alone again at lunch. But this time, a new figure approached. Coach Darnell, head of the school wrestling team, dropped into the seat across from her. He was in his 40s, built like a truck, and rarely smiled. "You really trained under Leon Davis?" he asked. Autumn looked up, surprised. "You know him?" "I was at Nationals when he took that belt in 2004. You moved here from his gym?" "I used to compete under his camp. Not anymore." He studied her. "Kids talk. I watched the footage. You're the real deal." Autumn nodded slowly. "You ever thought about starting a self-defense group? Informal, after school. Not sanctioned yet, but if it picks up, I could help you get approval." She blinked. "Why would you help me?" He glanced around the cafeteria. "Because I've been here long enough to know when a school needs a shift. You might be that shift." Autumn hesitated. "I don't want this to turn into a spectacle." "It already is," he said. "You can either let the story be written about you, or write it yourself." That night, Autumn sat in her room staring at the ceiling. For the first time in months, she didn't feel like she was running from something. She felt like she might be running toward it, and for the first time, that didn't scare her. Not one bit. The gym was silent except for the rhythmic thud of fists against a heavy bag. Autumn moved like a metronome, each strike measured, precise, and powerful. Sweat ran down her brow, but her eyes stayed locked on the leather. She wasn't just training. She was sharpening. After what happened with Brad, after the encounter with his father, and after Shane's cafeteria mockery, she knew things were shifting. and the storm was coming fast. Across the room, Coach Darnell leaned on the wall, arms crossed, observing quietly. He'd opened the weight room early for her. No questions, no speeches, just respect. And that was rare in this town. "You're holding back," he finally said. Autumn stopped. Her shoulders rose and fell with her breath. "I'm being careful." Careful's how people like Brad end up thinking they can win. You want to stay safe, you play smart, but you don't ever dim your fire to make people comfortable. Autumn grabbed a towel and sat on the bench. "Coach, why are you really helping me?" He looked at her for a long moment. "Because I've seen girls like you come and go. Strong, brilliant. But this system, it eats kids like you. You're not the first black girl to walk into this school and threaten the status quo. You might be the first who can actually survive it." Autumn didn't respond. She didn't have to. The silence between them said enough. But while she was gaining power in the gym, outside those walls, the game was changing. At lunchtime that day, whispers followed her like shadows. A rumor had started, one that she forged medical records to enroll, another that she'd been kicked out of her last school for assault. None of it was true, of course, but it didn't matter, because lies traveled faster than any truth ever could. She pushed open her locker after English class and found a note taped inside. "Go back to Detroit. We don't need your kind here." Her fingers crumpled the paper into a tight fist. That night at dinner, her mom noticed the tension. "You haven't said a word since you got home." "Rough day?" Autumn hesitated, staring at her pasta. Then she sighed. "They're trying to break me. Not just Brad or his goons. Everyone. The teachers who look through me, the whispers, the lies. Like I'm some threat just for existing." Her mom reached across the table, touching her hand. "You are a threat," Denise said calmly, "but not for the reasons they think. You're everything they're afraid of. Smart, strong, unshakable." Autumn smiled faintly. "I don't feel unshakable." "No one does. Not even the heroes. They just keep showing up anyway." Later that night, Autumn sat by the window with her phone. Messages were coming in faster than she could keep up with. @Brad47 posted a video. "New girl's got anger issues. Maybe she needs a vacation or therapy." Underneath, comments flooded in. "She's probably on steroids." "Bet she snapped a neck back in Detroit. Thinks she's Ronda Rousey. LOL. Autumn stared at the screen, numb. Then a new message popped up. It was from a private account. No profile pic, just one sentence. "You want to fix this? Meet me at the East Bleachers. Midnight." She narrowed her eyes. This could be a trap, or it could be what she needed. Either way, she was done playing defense. At 11:59 p.m., Autumn pulled her hoodie over her head and slipped out the back door. The night was still, but the tension in her chest roared. When she reached the bleachers, a figure stood waiting in the dark. It was Shane. Not in his usual bravado. He was alone, hands in his pockets, jaw tight. "You showed," he said. "You're the one who called me out. So say what you came to say." He looked down for a moment, then back at her. "I was there when Brad's dad came to the school. Heard him tell Principal Knowles that either you get expelled or the Covington Foundation pulls funding." Autumn's face didn't change, but inside, her heart pounded. "They're pushing hard," Shane continued. "But here's the twist. Knowles, he's not on their side, not fully. He wants things quiet, but he's not stupid." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I saw the footage. Brad got what he deserved. And honestly," Shane sighed, "I'm tired of being part of their little game. They've got everyone scared, even staff. But you," he shook his head, "you're not scared. You don't know me." "No," he said, "but I want to." She raised an eyebrow. "I mean, I want to help," he added quickly. "Things are gonna escalate. And you're gonna need allies. People who know how the system works from the inside." She didn't answer right away. Finally, she nodded. "I don't trust you." Fair. But I'm listening. And just like that, the game shifted again. The next morning, a firestorm hit. Autumn arrived to school to find posters everywhere, photocopied images of her face, captioned with the words, unstable, violent, dangerous. They were plastered on lockers, bathroom mirrors, even slipped into teachers' mailboxes. But by second period, a new set of posters appeared, this time with Autumn's face again, only now with words like courageous, strong, unbreakable. At the bottom of the flyer, we stand with Autumn Carter. Shane had kept his word, and apparently so had others. More students began speaking up. One girl posted a video about being bullied by Brad last year. Another shared texts where he threatened her if she didn't go to prom with him. By the end of the day, the Covington's golden boy had cracks in his armor. And Autumn? She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was winning. Autumn Carter stood at her locker, her fingers clenched around the metal vent as whispers floated down the hall like smoke. The posters had been taken down, but the silence they left behind buzzed louder than the noise. No one dared speak to her directly, but everyone was watching. That afternoon, Principal Knowles called her to his office. "Miss Carter," he said, folding his hands as she sat across from him, "I assume you know why you're here. If this is about the posters, I had nothing to do with them." Knowles shook his head. "This isn't about the posters. It's about what's coming next." She sat up straighter. "Meaning?" "Brad's father, Lawrence Covington, he's not backing down. He's convinced you're a threat to his son, and by extension to this school. He's pushing the board to take disciplinary action." "For what? Defending myself?" "I agree with you, but this town doesn't always run on fairness. It runs on fear and money." Autumn's jaw tightened. "Then what happens now?" "I'm trying to buy you time," Knowles said, surprising her. "But you need to be smart. Whatever you do next, make sure it doesn't give them more ammunition." She stood to leave, but paused at the door. "And if that's not enough? Then I hope you've got more allies than I do." She didn't answer. Later that evening, Autumn and Shane sat under the bleachers behind the field. The fall air was crisp, and the distant sounds of football practice echoed like an old war song. "Why are you really helping me?" she asked, watching the sky dim. "I used to be like them," Shane admitted. "Not just Brad. I laughed at the jokes, ignored the stuff I should have stood up to. I thought if I stayed quiet, I was safe. But when you punched him that day, it woke something up. You realize this doesn't make us friends. I'm not asking for friendship, just a shot to do the right thing. Finally." She let the silence settle, then nodded once. "I need information," she said, "about Lawrence Covington, why he's going so hard." Shane thought for a moment. "His foundation sponsors the entire school district, athletics, scholarships, even the cafeteria contracts. If he thinks someone's threatening that control, he'll burn it all down just to prove a point." "He's afraid," Autumn said. "That's good." Shane raised an eyebrow. "You think he's afraid of you?" "I think he's afraid of what I represent, a girl who fights back." The next day, things exploded. Brad walked into school with a fresh bruise under his left eye and a smug grin on his face. "You're done," he whispered as he passed Autumn in the hallway. "You'll wish you never stepped foot in this town." During fourth period, an announcement came over the intercom. "All students, please report to the auditorium for a mandatory assembly." The lights dimmed as Principal Knowles stepped onto the stage. "As many of you know," he began, "recent events have put our school under considerable scrutiny. Allegations of bullying, retaliation, and inappropriate behavior have surfaced." Autumn sat in the center row, her chest tight. "In response," Knowles continued, "the school board has requested a review of these incidents. Until then, the following students are being placed under investigation and temporary suspension." A murmur swept the room. Bradley Covington, Tyler McCree, Marcus Henderson. Gasps echoed as the boys stood, red-faced and furious. Autumn turned slowly toward Shane, who sat a few rows back. He gave her a subtle nod. After the assembly, chaos erupted in the hallways. Brad cornered Shane near the gym. "You little snitch," he growled. "You think this changes anything?" "I didn't snitch," Shane said calmly. "I told the truth." "Big difference. You don't know what you've started." "Neither do you." Meanwhile, Autumn found herself pulled aside by Mrs. Langston, the AP English teacher known for her sharp tongue and a sharper memory. "Autumn," she said, her voice low. "Word is you're not just some tough girl from Detroit." Autumn didn't flinch. "You hear a lot of words in this place." Langston smiled knowingly. "Be careful. When people start seeing you as a threat, they don't just fight you, they try to erase you. What would you do?" "Me?" Langston chuckled. "I'd give them a reason to remember my name." That night, Autumn couldn't sleep. She opened her laptop and began writing. Not an essay, not a speech, but a letter. A statement, her story. She wrote about being followed in the halls, having her food dumped, being humiliated in front of a crowd. She wrote about the power dynamics, the silence from staff, the whispers of corruption. And then she told the part no one knew. "I am a national youth MMA champion. I trained for years not to fight, but to never be a victim again. I didn't come here to cause trouble, but I won't apologize for surviving it." She posted it anonymously to the school's online forum and closed the laptop. By morning, the letter had gone viral. Students shared it. Teachers whispered about it. Even the news picked it up. But what Autumn hadn't expected was what happened next. During lunch, a girl named Jada, quiet, invisible to most, stood up in the cafeteria and raised her phone. "This is my story," she said. "Last year, I told the counselor Brad followed me home. She told me to stop dressing provocatively. She never filed a report." Then another student stood, and another. One by one, they began to speak. By the time Autumn walked out of the cafeteria, her hands were shaking, not with fear, but with fire. This wasn't just her battle anymore. It was a reckoning. The day after Autumn's letter went viral, Lincoln High didn't feel like the same place. There was a crackle in the air, like the moment before a thunderstorm hits. Whispers no longer followed her in shame. They floated with curiosity and awe. And most importantly, people were talking. Not just about her, but about everything that had been bubbling beneath the surface for years. But not everyone was impressed. By third period, Lawrence Covington stormed into the school with his silk tie whipping behind him like a flag of war. He bypassed the front desk, burst into Principal Knowles' office, and slammed the door so hard that the glass rattled. "My son is being persecuted," he snarled, "and your school is about to pay the price." Knowles didn't flinch. "Brad is under investigation, Mr. Covington, for multiple credible accusations. From some anonymous girl who thinks she's better than everyone. From a dozen students, all independent, all aligning. You know who I am, what I fund, what I control. You know what happens if you don't make this go away?" Knowles leaned back in his chair, steady. "Then maybe it's time you ask yourself what happens if I don't." Outside, Autumn had been summoned to the counselor's office, not by request, but demand. Ms. Tannen stood waiting, stiff like she was trying to pretend this meeting was standard procedure. "Have a seat, Autumn." She did. "I understand you've been expressing some concerns lately." Autumn tilted her head. "Concerns? Or the truth?" Tannen sighed. "What you wrote has caused quite a stir. Parents are calling, reporters are sniffing around, and the board, well, they're not happy. With me? With the school, but you're the lightning rod." Autumn didn't blink. "I'm not afraid of lightning." "Let me be clear," Tannen continued. "If this escalates further, it could affect your academic record, your eligibility for scholarships, college admissions." So I should stay silent so they don't mess with my future? I'm saying be careful how you proceed. Autumn stood. You're not worried about my future. You're worried about your job. And she walked out, heart pounding but steady. Later that day, as she was leaving her last class, Shane caught up to her. You need to see this, he said, pulling out his phone. He opened a video. The footage was grainy, taken from a hidden angle but unmistakable. Brad and his friends standing behind the gym, circling a smaller student. Isaiah Miller, a freshman. One of the boys shoved him. Brad laughed and pushed him again. Then a punch. The kid stumbled to the ground. Laughter. Autumn stared at the screen, her fists tightening. When was this? Last week. Someone just sent it to me. Said they were too scared to go public. We're not waiting. We take it to the board. And the media. Shane hesitated. Are you sure? It could blow everything up. Good, Autumn said. Let it explode. They arranged a meeting that night in the public library's back room. Shane, Autumn, and 6 other students who had either witnessed or experienced harassment. Each had a story. Each had stayed silent until now. I watched Brad pour soda into my locker, said Chelsea, a junior. Every day for 3 weeks. I told the assistant principal. Nothing happened. Tyler followed me home, added Marcus. Said if I told anyone, he'd ruin my life. I believed him. I don't even care if he gets expelled, said Isaiah quietly. I just want it to stop. Autumn stood. Her voice was calm, but her words cut sharp. This isn't just about me anymore, or Brad. It's about a system that let it happen, that covered for it, that protected power instead of people. Shane nodded. So what do we do? Autumn pulled out a flash drive. We're going public. Tonight. They uploaded everything, the videos, the testimonials, the letter, to a website Shane built. They named it Truth at Lincoln. By midnight, it had 1,000 hits. By morning, the town was on fire. Brad's father held a press conference outside the district office. He wore a navy suit and a righteous scowl. These are lies, he declared. Fabrications meant to damage my family's name. We will pursue legal action against those responsible. But then a bombshell dropped. Autumn had contacted an outside civil rights organization. They launched a formal inquiry into the school, the district, and Covington's financial entanglements. The press latched on. And for the first time, Lawrence Covington didn't look like a man in control. He looked scared. Autumn watched it unfold from her living room, her mom beside her, silent. You didn't tell me everything, her mom said finally. Autumn looked down. I didn't want you to worry. I'm always going to worry. That's the job, but I'm proud of you. She squeezed Autumn's hand. You're doing something I never could. That night, Autumn couldn't sleep. Not out of fear, but because her mind wouldn't stop racing. There was more coming. She could feel it. Just before dawn, her phone buzzed. A message, no name, just a screenshot. A hidden email thread between school officials discussing how to handle the Autumn Carter situation. Her name, her records, a quiet suggestion to transfer her out for her own safety. It hit her like ice. They weren't done. The system was still fighting back. And now it was personal. Autumn didn't blink as the email thread glared back at her. The words danced between lines of polished bureaucracy, but their meaning screamed loud and clear. They wanted her out, not for her protection, but to protect themselves. She forwarded the screenshot to Shane with a single line, We're not done. By first bell, the tension at Lincoln High had escalated to something almost physical. Students checked their phones every 5 minutes, group chats exploded with theories, and teachers, normally chatty, now walked halls tight-lipped and nervous. Shane met Autumn at her locker, his brows knitted tight. You saw the email? I did. Looks like I've officially gone from nuisance to threat. He exhaled. We need to show the school board this, publicly. Make it impossible for them to pretend they didn't know. Autumn didn't hesitate. And I want to do it at the town hall, tomorrow night. Are you serious? That's live streamed. Everyone will be watching. Exactly. For the next 24 hours, she worked like a machine, drafting a speech, compiling evidence, coordinating with the students who'd share their stories. A few parents even reached out, quietly offering support. One of them, Mrs. Nguyen, offered her a ride and stood ready to testify about how her son had been ignored after reporting bullying months ago. And then came the surprise. Just hours before the town hall, Autumn received a message request from an unknown number. At first, she thought it was another threat. But the message simply read, "I need to talk. Please. I messed up." Brad. She stared at it for a long moment. Shane, standing beside her, shook his head. "Don't trust him." "I don't, but I want to hear what he has to say." They met in the back lot behind the gym, same place where Brad used to corner kids without cameras around. Now it was different. He waited alone, hands in pockets, shoulders hunched. He didn't look cocky anymore. He looked lost. "I didn't know it would go this far," he said, his voice hoarse. "You mean when you shoved Isaiah into a wall? Or when you dumped soup on me in front of the whole cafeteria?" Autumn's voice was calm, but sharp enough to draw blood. He flinched. "I thought it was just how things worked. You mess with people before they mess with you. You picked your targets, Brad. You didn't touch the football captain or anyone your daddy liked." He looked down. "I saw the site, the videos, the stories. I didn't know half of it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't want this to be who I am forever." Autumn crossed her arms. "Then you've got work to do, real work, not performative apologies." He hesitated. "Can I come to the town hall tomorrow? Say something?" She considered it. "That's not up to me, but if you show up, you better be ready to own everything." Brad nodded. For the first time, she saw fear in his eyes, not of her, but of the person he'd been. The next evening, the town hall was standing room only. Parents, teachers, students, reporters, they all packed into the old auditorium like they were waiting for a verdict. The school board sat stiff at the long table in front, their expressions blank, their hands nervously clasped. Autumn stepped up to the microphone. "My name is Autumn Carter. I'm a junior at Lincoln High, and I've spent the last 3 weeks living through something I wouldn't wish on anyone." She spoke clearly, her voice unwavering. She recounted everything: the bullying, the silence from teachers, the threats, the institutional gaslighting. Then, with a deep breath, she pulled out the printed emails. "These are from your own staff. You knew what was happening. You called me a disruption and planned to transfer the problem. I am not the problem. The system is." A hush fell over the room as Shane queued up the video of Isaiah being assaulted. Audible gasps rippled through the crowd. A woman in the front row covered her mouth. One board member visibly swallowed. Autumn paused. "But I didn't come here just to point fingers. I came here to demand change." She laid out the proposals she and her peers had drafted. A clear anti-harassment policy with real consequences. An anonymous reporting system. Student-led panels to hold the administration accountable. Mandatory sensitivity training. Then came the twist. Brad stood up from the back row, alone. He walked to the mic slowly, eyes down, and when he looked up, he was shaking. "My name is Brad Covington. I'm part of the problem." The room froze. "I bullied students. I used my last name like a shield. I knew people were afraid to speak up because of me, and I liked it. I didn't just fail as a person. I helped keep a whole system broken. And I'm sorry." The silence was heavy. Then a voice, Marcus from the library meeting, stood up. "Then help us fix it." And just like that, the room shifted. It didn't absolve Brad, but it cracked something. That night, the board adjourned early. They promised to meet in the emergency session. Outside, as reporters swarmed and cameras flashed, Autumn stood quietly by the flagpole. Her mom found her there. You shook the ground tonight. Autumn looked up. It's not over. No, but the ground is moving. And it was, not just for her, but for every student who'd ever felt small. For once, Lincoln High felt like it was listening. Autumn sat in the back of her mother's car, staring out the window at Lincoln High, now bathed in early morning fog. The night before still clung to her skin, the lights of the town hall, the electric hum of hundreds of people watching, the tremor in Brad's voice when he confessed. She hadn't slept, not because of fear, but because of everything that came next. The school board hadn't responded publicly yet, not a word. But the story had exploded overnight. Local news had already picked up clips from the live stream. The hashtag #StandWithAutumn was trending. Students were tagging their own stories. Teachers at other schools had started speaking up. As Autumn walked into school, the halls went quiet again. But it wasn't the same tension. People weren't avoiding her. They were looking. Some nodded. Others smiled. A few kids she didn't even know gave her a quick thumbs up before hurrying past. Shane met her at her locker, holding his phone like it was radioactive. They're having a closed-door meeting right now. Emergency board session. Parents are camped out in front of the administration building like it's a protest. It is a protest, she said. But just as quickly as momentum had built, something cracked the air. Her phone buzzed with a push notification. School board releases statement. Carter suspended for breach of protocol. What? Autumn's voice dropped. Shane blinked. No way, that can't be real. But it was. The statement, cold and sterile, accused Autumn of disrupting school order, violating privacy by sharing video evidence, and organizing unsanctioned gatherings. It framed her town hall speech as reckless behavior that endangered students' safety. It was signed off by the superintendent. Are they serious? Shane said, pacing in front of her. After all of this? After Brad's confession? They're still trying to paint you as the threat? Autumn felt the heat rush to her cheeks. Not from shame, but from rage. Her breath trembled in her chest, her fingers curling around her phone like it was a weapon. And then her mom called. Autumn, I just got the notice. It was emailed to the house. I'm already on my way to the district office. I'm coming with you. No, I need you to stay at school today. Mom, they just suspended me. What am I supposed to do, smile through math class? Her mom hesitated, then said, You started this movement by being present. Finish it the same way. Autumn hung up. When she turned the corner into the main hallway, the entire student body was gathered. At least 200 kids, all silent. At first, she thought something had happened. Then she saw the sign, a huge white banner strung across the lockers. If Autumn's suspended, we all walk. It took her a second to process it. Brad stood near the front. So did Marcus. So did Emily and Isaiah. Kids who hadn't spoken to each other since freshman year were now shoulder to shoulder. Shane handed her a megaphone. You said we needed to do this publicly. Autumn took it, stunned. Her voice cracked at first. I didn't ask you all to do this. Emily stepped forward. You didn't have to. You made it okay to not be silent. Brad nodded. They can suspend one of us. Maybe a few, but not all of us. The principal, Mr. Dorsey, came barreling down the hall with 2 security officers. Everyone back to class now. This is a direct violation of— No! It was Autumn's voice, clear, ringing over the megaphone. We're not going anywhere. Mr. Dorsey's face turned red. This is grounds for suspension, expulsion. Then expel all of us, Shane said. You don't have that authority, Emily added. This is peaceful protest. Teachers began filing into the hallway. Some stood behind the students. One even slipped his staff badge off and placed it in Autumn's hand. I've been waiting for someone brave enough to do this, he whispered. Then, like it had been waiting its whole life, the building cracked into cheers. Kids began chanting, Justice for Autumn! Justice for Autumn! The sound rose to the rafters, echoed down the stairwells, out into the parking lot. The district office couldn't ignore it. That afternoon, the school board called for a press conference. Autumn, standing in front of the Lincoln High steps, watched as the superintendent took the podium, flanked by several board members, now looking far less smug than they had days ago. "We have reassessed our decision in light of new evidence and community response. Autumn Carter's suspension has been rescinded." Muted applause from the adults, roars from the students behind her. "But more importantly," the superintendent continued, "we acknowledge a failure in oversight, in leadership, and in our responsibility to protect our students. Effective immediately, a full independent investigation will begin. Staff members who fail to report bullying will be reviewed. We will also establish a student oversight council to address discrimination and harassment complaints moving forward." Autumn didn't smile. She turned to Shane, whispering, "I want more than policy. I want accountability." And she would get it. Later that night, she sat on her porch, legs tucked under her, watching as a late summer breeze stirred the leaves. Her mom brought her a cup of tea and sat beside her. "I'm proud of you," Autumn exhaled slowly. "It's not over." "No," her mom said, "but you've made sure it's finally begun." The auditorium at Lincoln High had never been this full, not even for graduation. Local reporters lined the back, cameras rolling. Parents squeezed shoulder to shoulder along the aisles, some still holding protest signs. The school board sat tight-lipped at their long table on stage, trying to maintain composure. And in the center, standing tall under the stage lights, was Autumn Carter. She wore a simple black jacket and jeans, but she might as well have been wearing armor. Her expression was steady, voice clear, and posture unshaken. The same girl who once sat quietly in the corner of the cafeteria was now addressing the entire town. "I never wanted to be the center of this," she began, "but when you're pushed into a corner and told to shrink, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand." Her voice echoed through the room. Every eye stayed on her. "I didn't speak up because I wanted attention. I spoke up because I was tired. Tired of being treated like I didn't belong. Tired of pretending to be invisible so I wouldn't be targeted. And tired of watching other kids go through the same thing while the people in charge looked the other way." Autumn paused. "You all heard the recordings. You saw the bruises. You watched Brad admit what he did. But the scariest part, it wasn't the bullying. It was knowing that if I hadn't recorded it, I would have been blamed." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Parents exchanged looks. Teachers stared down at their laps. "But here's the thing," Autumn continued. "This isn't just about me. This school has failed a lot of students. Kids who were told to toughen up. Girls who were told to stop overreacting. Boys who were told to handle it themselves. And students of color who were told to stop playing the race card." She stepped forward. "We're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for fairness, safety, a chance to come to school without fear." Silence blanketed the auditorium. Then, slowly, a single clap. Then another. Then the room erupted. The board couldn't hide anymore. They stood, nodding solemnly. One by one, they stepped up to the mic and promised change. Policies revised, accountability measures installed, anonymous reporting systems, staff retraining, new leadership. And in a twist no one saw coming, Principal Dorsey, who had been silent throughout the chaos, walked up to the stage, turned to the crowd, and spoke. "I failed you," he said. "I failed this school, and for that, I resign." It was the final blow. The next morning, local news stations ran the headline, "Lincoln High, Student Forces System Overhaul." Photos of Autumn standing firm at the podium went viral. Even a few national outlets picked up the story. But Autumn didn't do it for fame. She spent the following weeks helping organize peer support groups. She worked with Ms. Jefferson to host open forums for students to talk about what they'd been through. She even met with state representatives to advocate for safer school environments. Brad? He transferred out. But before he left, he handed Autumn a handwritten apology. I was taught to lead by force. You led by courage. I see the difference now. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. The school changed, the students changed, and Autumn? She became a name people didn't whisper about in hallways, but one they said with pride. Months later, on a calm Saturday afternoon, Autumn sat outside with her camera phone, recording a short video. Hey guys, if you followed this journey, thank you. This isn't just my story, it's ours. If you've ever felt voiceless, unseen, or unprotected, I hope this reminds you that one voice can shake a system. She smiled into the lens. If you believe in that too, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes, the quietest person in the room is just waiting for the right moment to speak. She hit post, and somewhere across the country, another kid watched it and stood a little taller. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful stories just like this. Your support helps voices like Autumn's get heard. Let's stand up together.